Why am I failing to learn French? Hi, my name's Chris from We Communicate. I'm a French teacher from real reality. I don't live in the YouTube world. I have real students that I really see, and the following video will focus on just one probable reason for failing to learn French. A lot of what I'm going to say doesn't truly apply to my classes anymore, I'm happy to say, for the simple reason that I sorted that problem, and you can discover how by visiting wecommunicate.com if you have an interest. So it doesn't truly apply to my most valued students, I'm happy to say, who are doing French with me now. Nonetheless, the advice I'm about to share, I think, still applies to many students out there, and I think it could be valuable information. So let's start. I think the reasons for not achieving a comfortable level in French are usually a combination of things. But for the purpose of a clear explanation, we'll focus on just one in this video, and I'll be making more videos on this later on. Before we start, I'd like everyone to know that I speak from the heart and based on experience alone. So it's never my intention to be condescending. I truly want to see each student succeed, and it's precisely why I believe in the success of each student that I've built this company, in which I poured time, sweat, tears, and placed a lot of faith beside. If you've ever started a business, I'm sure you know what I mean. The reason for failing that I'll outline in this video might sound oversimplistic, but it's always the simple reasons that are to blame. So after watching this, you might think, well, that makes sense. Well, it really is usually the simple reasons that are to blame. Among the reasons for not developing a good level in a new skill, and in this case we're talking about French, there's a hierarchy. That there are levels between the reasons for not achieving a level of French or learning a new skill, and not all reasons have the same weight. I think it's important to know that. Some reasons have stronger consequences than others. For example, some learners might believe that their method of learning isn't right, or they haven't found the right app to help them learn French. If this were a sales class, the beginner salesperson might think that they're not saying the correct things to convince the buyer to buy that set of encyclopedias, for example. And for you young ones out there, that's an old guy reference. Encyclopedias are books that do what the internet does now. It gives answers. So there used to be door-to-door salespeople selling hoovers and encyclopedias mainly, so that's an old guy reference. But even before the sales technique, there are other more important factors, such as faith and self-confidence. Do we believe that we could sell an item to someone without any self-belief or commitment? Well, probably not. And language learning is exactly the same thing. I think that in any challenging task, visualization and commitment play much stronger roles than the way we perform the challenging task. So I always say this, but to me it's important to go upstream, and it's true for learning languages or just for anything we do. So it's not necessarily the performance downstream, it's upstream, the frame of mind, how you approach the performance. If you decide that you will know French at the level you desire, it will absolutely happen. Why? Because it takes not much more than to create an account with We Communicate, download a PDF, do the exercises, and watch a video. I firmly believe that, and not only do I believe it, but I know it, I've seen it. How hard is that? Watching a video, downloading a PDF, doing some exercises, sitting at a desk, taking your pen out, and learning something new. And you can even start, if you want, by watching a video first and doing the PDF later, or do it in the order you want. Again, how hard is it? Well, the answer is, it's very hard for some people. Now, of course, the act of sitting at a table, taking out a pencil, and doing an exercise is easy in itself, and that much anyone can do. It isn't much harder to press play on a video that's narrated in English, in clear English by the way, and that explains how each French topic works. These things are not hard. So why is it that some of our students brilliantly succeed at this and others don't? Well, the answer to me is that those who don't reach that level in French have not made the decision upstream. And in my experience, it's the only reason for not succeeding. And this is not a believe in yourself pep talk. It is the absolute truth. It's not about unleashing your hidden powers and believing yourself and focusing. It's not that. But it is the only true reason for failing at French. It comes from a decision, what's going on upstream. When it comes to learning a language, and I speak from experience, when it comes to when we learn a language, there are different decisions we can make. And that's why I said at the beginning of the video, there's a hierarchy in the problems we have for not learning a language. When we can't learn a language, there's a hierarchy. There are different decisions we can make when we start out and want to learn a language. Now, one such decision can be to start learning French. Right? I've made the decision to start learning French. Another might be to be in the process of learning French. And a third decision might be to have learned French. Now, this third decision is what, in a sense, We Communicate is all about. Through the websites, the learning resources, a lot has been prepared for the students to be in a state of having learnt French. That's the end goal, really. And it seems simplistic, and I said in the beginning of the video, it might seem so simplistic it's also almost insulting, but it's the truth. If you look at a lot of schools around you, language schools, I'm talking about brick and mortar schools or whatever, which of the three decisions are they really selling you? Starting French, being in a state of learning French, or having learned French? These are three different things altogether. So it's as much your decision as a learner, what you set out to accomplish, and it's also partly with who you work. Which school have you chosen, and are they well equipped to place you in a state of having learned French? As far as I'm concerned, I already see students in the state of, after the learning, having learned French. Now, we all agree that learning is never really finished in life. Of course, there's always something more to learn, but still, I think the argument holds. I want students to have learned French, not being in a state of learning French. You can, of course, it's your call, but it's all designed to have learned French. And as inconsequential as it might seem, this decision is the difference between succeeding at French and not learning French, or not succeeding at learning French. If you allow me an easy comparison, please do. If this was an archery class, right, you probably see where I'm going with this. If this was an archery class, I think, it's my belief, most people, I think, visualize holding the arrow and shooting. They've signed up for being in the process of doing archery. Now, of course, the student might look at the target, but only vaguely. They've not made the decision to hit the bullseye. And I'm not trying to sound wise or clever with my allegories, but I do speak from the heart when I say this. It is absolutely true. And the image of archery is simply the best I could find. I think it's the let's wait and see approach that might be failing you if you're a student of French. To say a word about my own work as a teacher, at We Communicate, I built a learning platform that can act as a remedy for most learning problems. There's all the French resources you could ever want. It doesn't need to be painful, and it doesn't need to be hard work either. All you need to do is chop away at it little by little. At one point there'll be nothing left to learn. You chop away at it, do exercises. It's like a transfer, you know, over here you have a big pile of exercises. Over there it's where the pile goes. You know, chop away at it, the pile goes down, there's nothing more to learn. You've moved the pile of non-knowledge to the pile of knowledge, and that's it. It's a transfer, you know, you chop away at it. It's black or white, there's no grey. But one thing I can't do as a teacher is make the decision for you. I can't place the faith and the commitment in your mind to make you a successful learner of French, unfortunately. A teacher can prepare the work, deliver the French language to you neatly laid out, such as WeCommunicate.com does, and ready to be used. That much we can do. And once you've completed the exercises, as I said, and watched enough videos and done enough exercises, you will be in a state of having learnt French. The pile will have moved from here to there. The pile of non-knowledge will now be a pile of knowledge, and you will have learnt French. I think that in terms of a timeline, a student can reasonably do this in a year or less. Again, I think when we speak about a year or less, we enter into the realm of the decision with a capital D. I think the students who fail, so to speak, 'cause I don't really actually believe in failing anything, I think it's a horrible word, but I think the students who fail don't make the true decision to know French and to chop away at it regularly. It's always upstream, it's always that initial decision. Again, an easy allegory, if you'll allow me a second. If this were climbing a tree, okay, here we go. If this were climbing a tree, I think a lot of students know they need to reach the branch, but forget the goal somehow. They stop midway. And they forget about climbing and find themselves in a state of climbing the tree instead of having climbed the tree. And I think it says what it says. It's the goal is to reach the branch, where you find yourself, okay, I'm busy climbing the tree, but let's not forget about the goal of having climbed the tree. And this is why I think so many students find themselves learning French for 5 years or more, and barely scratching the basic conversation level, when in reality a year or less is all that's needed. Just log in, download exercises, complete exercises, and watch video. That's the only mission ahead. The mission is defined, it's prepared, what it takes is to execute, really. Sounds a bit like Mission Impossible. Execute the plan. Now, we might argue also that life gets in the way, or that we have other things to do. We are, after all, grown-ups. Now, as much as all these reasons are valid, true, life does get in the way, I think they still bring us back to the same initial decision. It's still the principle of the decision that stands. And I think this can be proven by the fact that for other decisions we make, life doesn't get in the way by miracle. We find the time when we decide to watch Netflix. We find the time when we decide to clean the house or go to the gym. There's always time. It's a funny thing, because I'm going off topic here, but it's a funny thing. Speaking of Netflix here, I find it a very interesting exercise when you add up all the hours you might give to, I don't know, YouTubing, TV watching. If we multiply 2 hours of browsing, 2 hours of watching TV a day, well, that makes someone's week 6 days long instead of 7. It's just amazing when you think of it that way. 2 hours every day of TV, Netflix or something, just messing around doing nothing. Well, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2 times 7, that's 14 hours out of your week. It's pretty amazing. It goes very quickly. So the argument of not having time for French or not having time for learning, I think we do find time when we want to, I don't know, lie around or waste time, or probably not use our time as it could best be used. And I'm saying this without any judgment whatsoever. I mean, it's nice to sit down with your partner and watch a film. Of course it is, everyone does it. And these are universal principles. Everything we accomplish, big or small, always starts with a decision. From cutting a piece of cheese to booking a flight or to go on holiday, a decision, an initial decision was made. And not achieving French, I think, has more to do with the quality of the decision than your technique as a student. The technique is downstream. We have to look upstream. So naturally you might need assistance to stay with that decision, to keep that decision, which is why you hire the services of a teacher who keeps you motivated and guides you and does all that a teacher has to do. There's no secret, really. It's just committing to a decision. I'm going to learn French, that's my decision, and just stay with it, essentially. It's not very hard. It's really chopping away at it, pile of non-knowledge here, transfer it to a pile of knowledge, and that's it. Another thing I did with We Communicate in my teaching of French, to support this decision, because making that initial decision is important, but also you sometimes need support to stay with that decision. And I designed We Communicate in such a way that I cut off all the side doors. You know, there's no escape. There's no room for excuses anymore, because I want to give strength to that decision. I want to enable that decision to meet with good results. And I want We Communicate to be a solid learning resource that you can rely on. And the days you don't feel like learning, because it does happen, we are after all human, you can still log in with minimal effort and learn a French skill, and you're still transferring that pile from one side to the other. Maybe it will just be a small box today and a bigger box tomorrow, but you're still moving from one side to the other. Each one of our exercises is configured and formatted in exactly the same way to make things easier for you. It's all explained in clear English. There's no frowning and asking, what on earth is this about? It's not even possible because of the bilingual angle. Once you do one exercise, if you can do one exercise, you can do them all, and that's it. Thank you very much for watching. And now I think I'll comment on this article and do a bit of ad-lib, as I usually do. Now, I spoke a lot about what I do, my work at We Communicate, which is not my habit in these videos. I wanted to address the average learner of French who might still be struggling 5 years later. I think the argument of the decision is a very true one. Whatever we accomplish in life, whatever it is, it starts with a decision. And when it comes to language learning, there are several decisions we can make. And several schools, different schools, accommodate that decision. It's not something we think about usually, but I think not many learners probably knock on the door of the local language school and say, hello, do you have the means to bring me to a state of having learned a language, French, Italian, whatever it is. I think a lot of schools implicitly sell the state of being in a state of learning a language as opposed to having learnt it. Every language school can start you off. Of course they can, anyone can do that. Being in a state of learning French, nice, that can go on forever. But looking beyond and saying, well, what's it going to take for me to having learned French, to have learned French? And that's a different decision altogether. I feel it's very important to always look upstream. And it's true in my own teaching of French in the sense that I rather focus on the skills that hold the language together as opposed to downstream. For example, the downstream manifestation of the French language might be a conversation in a formal context. So a beginner might ask me, for example, will I be able to talk with a doctor or something? Will I be able to order food at a restaurant? These are two good examples, but I don't so much focus on that because that's downstream. What you need to do is learn the skills upstream that allow you to do what's downstream. What's downstream here, like ordering food at a restaurant, that's just the manifestation, the visible manifestation of what you learnt upstream. And it's true also for the quality of your decision, for the quality of your commitment. If you look upstream, well, what did I really decide to do when I decided to learn French? What did I really envision? And am I really on that path? Am I is my decision leading me on the right path to where I want to get? And some people do want to learn French as a hobby and being in the process of learning French. And you can do that for any number of years. Of course you can. There's nothing wrong with it. Of course not. But it's usually the simple things that fail us when we learn French. That's just what my experience has shown me. It's not downstream, it's not the app you're using, it's not the, I don't know, watching enough French films on Netflix, it's not all these things. It's really, what did you really decide to do? And of course, I mean, if what's downstream, the app you're using, isn't sufficiently in tune to support that decision, well, it's not going to work either, of course not. Because you can argue, well, but We Communicate, that's downstream also. I mean, why are you better than anyone else? Well, I think because we communicate was specifically built to support a quality decision, and we communicate was built to place you in a state of having learned French. Right, so I think that's the best way I could explain that. So yeah, I hope this video was useful, and it's, yeah, visualizing, committing, what did you exactly decide to do when you wanted to learn French, and is your current platform, school, means of learning built to support a quality decision such as having learned French. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was useful. My name's Chris. See you soon. Bye.